Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Oh, my dear friend, I feel like I haven't seen you for so long.
No, it's been too long. We have to run into each other at the supermarket again.
We will catch up soon. Isn't it funny how when you live quite close to someone, often it's the hardest to get together? It's sort of like when you live close to work and you're always late.
Yes, that's me at the school gates every day.
Yeah. Oh, it's lovely to see you. And this is the perfect final session for what has been a really full and juicy day. I feel like we've had so many different rich conversations today and lots of different perspectives, which is exactly what I had hoped for. And as we dive now into the conversation around matrescence, it really continues that theme because this is all about the transition from being, not a mother to being a mother, or perhaps being a mother of one to being a mother of two, or, the changing dynamics that we experience as women as we move into motherhood and changing families. And isn't it true, Amy, to say that there is no one way in which this happens, right? It's like labor, like pregnancy. There are so many different variations of normal.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things I experienced in my own three times of becoming a mother is that each time I expected it to be like it was the last time. And the universe just doesn't work like that. And each time I learned more about myself and it prepared me for the child that I ended up having. So I think there's such beauty in how different it is every time we go through it as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean I've told this story before, but it's such a clear example to me. And I still think of it, even though my eldest children are teenagers now, my first child basically ate anything you put in front of him but never slept. And my second child was very easy to get to sleep. He slept a lot and didn't eat anything. And so I had this experience with the first of thinking, I've nailed the food thing. I just need to work out the sleep thing, thinking it's all about me, right? And how I'm parenting and I'm, creating this reality. And then second one came along, I was like, I think this isn't actually anything to do with me. This is just who these little humans are and what they're bringing in. And all I can really do is parent to the best of my ability and try and figure it out in each moment.
Mm.
Um, we'll dive into that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But before we do, let's just step back a moment because I haven't done a very good job of introducing you at all. So, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and, your work truly is pioneering. I actually really want to say that when you first started doing this work, no one knew what the word matrescence meant, and it was really not talked about. And now I hear it and see it, if not in the mainstream, certainly on the fringes of the mainstream. Like it's certainly getting a lot more airtime than it did. And a lot of that is credit to the work that you have done over, I want to say decades, certainly many, many years. So
Mm.
yeah, just tell us a little bit about what brought you here.
Okay, thank you for saying that. Beautiful. So for everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Amy Taylor Kabbaz. I am a mother of three based in Sydney. My children are 17, 15, and 11. And when I became a first-time mum 17 years ago, I was so deeply unprepared for how I would feel as a mother. My background is a journalist. I am a huge overthinker, over researcher, over studier. So I did all of the things that I thought I needed to do to become a mother and be ready for this baby, and had quite a traumatic birth with her. And when on the other side of that, just really fell apart. I had a terrible time coming to terms with how I felt about myself. My love and affection and total devotion to my daughter was unquestionable, but I just didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't like the way I thought about myself. I went through a really, really hard time. And so, being the journalist that I am, I'm like, well, surely I'm not the only one who's feeling like this. Maybe there's a book out there. Maybe I could find somebody to talk to. Maybe I could interview somebody, because I was writing for magazines and everything at the time. And nobody was talking about it. Nobody was talking, other than a very clear delineation of what postnatal depression was. There wasn't anything outside of that spectrum of questioning. So I thought, therefore, it was just me. who was really struggling with who am I now? And so just push those feelings down, as we so often do as women. In my teachings, we talk about it as self-silencing. We sort of silence ourselves thinking it must be our fault, and kind of just got on with life. Um, and the way that my version of getting on with life is just to then become Superwoman. So I went back to work at the ABC on breakfast radio at 3:30 in the morning every morning. I created a blog about self-care for mothers. Ironically, even though I had no self-care practices, I started, interesting, some of you may know this, going to yoga 2 or 3 times a week, and met Katie Rose because she was my yoga teacher. So that's how our connection began all those years ago. And I wrote my first article about what happens to a woman when she becomes a mother when Scarlett, my 17-year-old, was 1 year old. So I've been writing and researching this for 16 years, but it wasn't until 2018 when she was 10, nearly 11 years old, that I finally heard the word matrescence randomly on a podcast. And by that stage, I'd had my third baby. I'd really struggled through motherhood all those years, eventually left the ABC and started coaching. And by the time I found the word matrescence, I'd had about 3,000 women go through my coaching program online and had written my first book, but I still didn't know the answer to that question that I had started asking 17 years ago, which was what happens to a woman when she becomes a mother, until I found this word. And then this word kind of opened up everything for me. I was very lucky that within just a few months, I was in New York. My publisher approved a trip for me to go over there and interview the woman who changed my life, but really has brought matrescence to the world. So thank you for saying, Katie, that I've had such a impact on spreading this, but really it was Dr. Aurelie Athen at Columbia University, who then beautifully and graciously worked with me one-on-one for about 2 years to develop my work around this. And she was the one who gifted all of us with this understanding that matrescence is like adolescence. It's this psychological, biological, physiological, spiritual, hormonal change of identity, of shifting through who we used to be and who we're becoming, similar to adolescence. And so, yeah, I grabbed this word like it was an oxygen tank and breathed it in and gave myself this whole new focus. And so since 2019, I've been teaching about matrescence and wrote another book about it, and now train others. Beautiful Claire's here. Hey, train others in how to support mothers through matrescence. And that's in everything from like coaching and yoga teachers and doulas and midwives, and also over into the spaces of workplace policy and corporate well-being policy to help support mothers when they return to work. So that's what I do and how it all came about.
It's so interesting how so often we turn to the work because it's the medicine that we need
Oh,
ourselves. I always remember when I wrote my book, Mindful Living, my mother read it and said, "It's lovely, darling, but I can't understand why you're writing a book about slowing down when you're always so bloody busy."
we teach what we
And I
most
was like,
need
yeah,
to
thanks,
learn.
Mum. That's the most honest feedback that anyone's going to give me, but it's true. It's like it's the medicine that we require. And, we were talking earlier in the summit today about this idea of when we've got decisions to make, whether it's around, where we're going to birth our babies, how we're going to parent, whatever it might be. For many of us, especially the more type A members of our group, I think it's fair to say both you, Amy, and I
Oh, yeah.
fit into that category. It's all about research. It's all about going down that rabbit hole, gathering information, figuring it out. And it's through that process of research that we come to understanding. And I think also another piece in that, which is becoming more and more apparent to me in the last few years, is yes, research and also storytelling. Like, let me
Yes.
hear your stories. And
Yes.
then I see myself in those, or I don't see myself in those. I see what's possible.
Mm,
Um, and that's so incredibly helpful. Can you tell us a little bit about the role that sharing our stories,
mm,
storytelling, and being listened to, being heard
mm.
plays in matrescence? And also maybe touch on why so many women feel that they're not heard and there is no place for their story after having become a mother?
Oh, yes. That's one of my favorite topics. Well, I think the most frustrating thing in my work and for so many people in this space is that for so long, the experiences of women in this space were completely unspoken. We not only didn't speak about it, we didn't even have the word. I mean, nowadays, still every day, my DMs are filled with mothers saying, why did I not know this? Now I know it. It's everything that I needed to know. And so until like 5 years ago, even less than that, 3 years ago, we didn't even have a word to describe how we feel. So again, my incredible teacher, Dr. Athen, would say, words create worlds. And so when we don't have a word to describe how we feel, we don't know where we fit in the world. It's like we are not only invisible, but we're silent. And so we have this word now that gives an explanation, a definition, an understanding of why we are going through this and that it's normal. It's a normative part of developmental process. Everybody who will become a parent, a mother, will go through a version of this, just as every human being on the planet moves through their teenage years and eventually becomes an adult, has gone through adolescence. It's unavoidable. So how did we get to the point where we are going through this enormous thing without a word? But the difference between what's happening with the matrescence awareness space now compared to a few years ago is that up until, and I'm not saying this because of like, I'm the pioneer here, but I was one of the early ones who took the research and the very heavy academic understanding of this and included my story. And that's what's made this blow up, not just for me, but for a lot of other people talking about this now. Because for a long time, again, Dr. Athens, the reason why she worked with me for 2 years was that she said, we need somebody to get this out of the academic language. We need this to get out of the papers and the theories and the university classrooms and get it to the mums. And somebody had to be that bridge, that storyteller that could take what was the theory and marry it with their own lived experience and all the other thousands of mothers that I'd listened to by that stage. And then that's when that beautiful magic occurs, because you've got the depth of knowledge. It's not just some woo-woo idea that you've made up in the shower. Like there's data and research and truth here, but it's got this heart that she can see herself in you, and she recognizes that her feelings and her emotions and her own inner doubts about whether she's a good mother, maybe she shouldn't have even become a mother, maybe I don't know what I'm doing anymore, all of those things become visible. So I think we're in this great space where, I mean, both of our work, Katie, has just become so much more, I don't want to say mainstream, so much more of an acceptable conversation, because we're bringing these stories of what it's really like to the light, and still including in it the depth of knowledge and yogic practices for you, the Ayurvedic insights, the matrescence research for me, because that's what this space needed. It needed that almost masculine theory with this beautiful feminine storytelling heart, and then that's when we create real change and momentum.
Listening to you then describing being that person that took the academic concept of matrescence into, you know, to mums, I really had this, I had goosebumps actually. I really had this feeling of of someone living their dharma. You know, we have this word
Yeah.
dharma in the yoga teachings, which describes a purpose. And I really, excuse me, I really felt that. Um,
Yeah, I definitely think this is my dharma, because I am one of those geeky students who absolutely loves going into academic papers. Like you should see the research list of the resources in Mama Rising. Like, oh my God, I don't think anybody reads all of them except for me. So we need like, and this is for those of you who work in this space, like this is what each of us can do. We can find our special, unique skills and marry it with the beautiful stories of our own experience or the other women that you've worked with, and then be able to share that. Like, we want women to be able to straddle both the deep knowledge and the stories and then be able to bring that out.
Absolutely. For those who don't know about matrescence, and I'm thinking particularly for those who are watching who are or listening who are pregnant,
Mm.
perhaps with their first child, can you tell us what are some of the key factors of matrescence? Like what are some of the key kind of pillars of what matrescence is all about?
Yeah. So, as part of our work as mummerizing coaches and facilitators, we work with, for some of you, any of you might have ever seen like the wheel of life. You know, when you look at, the different areas of your life and you kind of do a little audit or check in with each area, like health, relationships, spirituality, career, finances, that type of thing. So we've developed a similar wheel called the wheel of matrescence. And what that is trying to acknowledge is that every single area of you and your life is transformed. Your identity is transformed through the experience of matrescence. I want to add here, matrescence begins, matrescence isn't just when you finally hold a living, breathing baby. Matrescence begins when you begin to consider how your life will be different as a mother. So for some women, that's when you pee on a stick and go, oh my God, what am I going to do? That's the beginning of a matrescence transformation. That's you developing and thinking through all those different areas of your life of how they'll be affected. For others, matrescence begins when they decide they would like to be a mother and begin trying. So for some women, they go through matrescence for years through IVF. And it's another part of the experience that is not shown or acknowledged in our world. I remember when I was trying to get pregnant and I'd be at work and I'd secretly be Googling like due dates. So if I conceive on this date, what star sign will my child be? Like, so this is a sign that you're entering in this huge transformational change. So when we think about what matrescence really is, it's an acknowledgement that every single part of you changes through this experience. So for some of us, it may be the physical aspect is the most challenging, either problems falling pregnant, traumatic birth, problems breastfeeding, health conditions that are triggered through this. For others, it may be around your workplace identity, financial independence that's suddenly just not available to you for a while you're on maternity leave. I've coached so many women over the years who their biggest struggle was that they used to be so independent with their finances, and now they feel like they have to ask their partner if they can get a haircut. So all of these little unspoken parts that just inside of you make you think, I don't know who I am, or this isn't how I thought I would feel, or this is different. That's how we explain what matrescence is. The other thing to add is that matrescence doesn't really end. So unlike adolescence, that, it's debatable whether it's 21 or 25 when the brain finally stops changing and developing, depending on gender, etc. Matrescence, there is a very intensive core period of matrescence, which is the first 7 years of your child's life. I think it's really interesting, Katie, that also lines up with a lot of the spiritual teachings around parenting, right? That our chakras are connected until 7 years, and there's all these different theories. But so in the more sort of academic research around matrescence, there's an acknowledgement that the acute matrescence period is the first 7 years. So if you have a number of babies, you go into another round of matrescence with each baby, and then it's another 7 years. So it's this constant transformation. However, as you and I both know, and anyone here who has teenagers will know, I feel like the matrescence I'm going through now with my teenagers is, if not more, then definitely as intense as the first, early matrescence experience. And when I say matrescence experience, I mean this trying to understand who I am in this season of my life with the experiences of being a mother at this time. So, how it's changing the way I see my work going, how it's changing how much sleep I'm getting, how much freedom, space, my dreams and desires and travel and all of that is continuously realigning because, this kid's not doing so well. Okay, now I have to think about this. So it's this beautiful shift back to yourself within all of the roles you have to play and giving that space and grace and acknowledgement so you can move through it without losing yourself. I hope that
And
makes
I recently had the realization that by the time my youngest is sort of a teenager, potentially old enough to be a bit independent, I'll probably be a grandmother. So it's like that feels like a whole other layer of matrescence. Like it's just
it.
like you said, it never ends.
It never ends.
It's
And
always unfolding and growing and
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's also, and I'm interested in your perspective on this because for me, the journey of being a mother always feels like such a mixed bag, that, and it's really easy for us when we talk about the postnatal time to talk about how difficult it is because it is really challenging and it comes with so many different new things, and that's the process of transition and adaptation. But I can honestly say, with my hand on my heart, that being a mother is, if not the greatest joy, certainly one of the greatest joys in my life. And I really feel that, I was born to do this and I get so much joy from my kids. I genuinely enjoy being a mum and I genuinely enjoy being their mum. So I think it's really important to say that matrescence isn't just, oh, it's hard and it's challenging and it's overwhelming. It's just different, right? And it's really that spiritual lesson of the only thing that is certain is that change is coming. I think that parenting teaches us that more than anything else. But there are so many joys as well, and part of the matrescence journey is also pausing to reflect on that and feel into that and be grateful for that too. Is that an
absolutely.
accurate statement?
Yeah, I think the way I like to look at it is that when you become a mother, you will move through matrescence no matter what. Like that's just set now. We now have enough research on the neurological changes, the physiological changes, the psychological changes. We know that you will move through matrescence. But in that experience, there's such this beautiful and sometimes confronting invitation to really look at who you are in this and to look back at maybe how you were parented, your own teenage years experience, your own belief in the world, your trust, your faith, your fears, because my God, parenting brings all of that to the surface. It's like the most confronting mirror in life ever. And without understanding this is the purpose of it, is for you to kind of remother yourself, look at your own inner thoughts and your own stories about the world, and gently and beautifully sit with those and decide who you want to be and what you want to bring forward, then you miss the greatest part of this experience. I mean, I truly think that I am 180 degrees different than I was 17 years ago because of motherhood, but not because of what they've taught me, but because they've made me, in a lot of ways, forced me to look at myself in the mirror and be like, whew, wow, where did that come from, Amy? Wow, that's not the way I want to show up in the world. That's not what I want to teach them. I want them to have self-kindness. So I'm going to have to start giving myself some self-kindness here. Like all of the changes that I've been through is because I have been given amazing teachers, including you, beautiful, who have taught me how to look at myself and support myself to grow through this. That is my greatest hope for matrescence awareness, is that instead of when a mother gives birth, instead of just focusing on how the child grows, if we can incorporate an understanding of matrescence as she is growing now too. And in that growth, all of her stuff might come up. It's going to feel scary and uncertain and wobbly, just like the teenage years do. But if we could put all this support around her And if we could sit next to her, I often vision in my mind, it's like, coming back into those beautiful women's circles like we should have. If we could sit in a space where somebody says, yeah, I know, it's okay. It's kind of what motherhood's meant to do. It's meant to make you look at yourself and say, who do you want to be? And what do you want to teach these people about, your little people, about the world? If we can do that, then, oh my God, it's the making of you. It's the most beautiful spiritual awakening and opportunity, I think. But only if you know why you're asking yourself this and you don't feel like there's something wrong with you in that moment. You don't go back into those, I call it the inner mean mama, that internal story. Mine was horrendous in the first few years of motherhood, which is I'm failing. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. I'm effing this up. It's my fault. I shouldn't have done. So we want women to know that in this beautiful process of giving birth to your baby, you're also giving birth to the next version of yourself. And in that birthing, just like the contractions of labor, you're going to have these expansion moments and contraction moments. You're going to want to call for the epidural because it hurts. Like you're going to want to, it's a huge transformation to move through. So we have to start making that accessible and understandable and known so women don't feel like there's something wrong with them and can really lean into this opportunity to learn about themselves and become these incredible versions of themselves through this.
So beautiful. Thank you.
Mm.
Um, I would love to open up for questions. We can take a couple of questions. So if you have a question for Amy, please pop it in the chat now. And I have one last question for you, Amy, which is about the work that you're doing. I know that you're doing some work in remote Australia. I'm curious about that. I'm curious in what Mama Rising is doing in general. So tell us about that. But I'm personally very interested in your remote practice projects.
Yeah. So again, for anyone who doesn't know, my book was called Mama Rising, still is called Mama Rising. And then in 2019, after working with Dr. Athen for a few years, I developed this training called Mama Rising as well. And that's very much a Matrescence certification, coaching certification. So we've been doing that, full throttle since 2020. And we have over 300 coaches around the world now who do everything from doula, midwifery work to OTs, GPs, psychologists, psychotherapists, community workers, all of the different sort of one-to-one motherhood space support. And in the last few years, a really big growth area has been, like I said, in the corporate space, like getting into big organizations, because often one of the crisis points in that early matrescence is when she returns to work and she walks back into the office or into her workplace and everybody treats her like she's just been on a long holiday and she's exactly the same person she used to be. And that's why we can't get women leaders into the workplace, because they end up leaving because they don't feel supported. So that's sort of our big focus now, is spreading the matrescence word around the world. One of the big exciting things that we're doing at the moment is we're making a documentary about matrescence and really telling the story of what hasn't been told, everything from how we prepare a woman for pregnancy, birth, and motherhood to birth trauma, and in particular, the real invisibility of motherhood, of the lack of support and the lack of the village and the community, and the voices of mothers. So in that documentary, we've filmed in Australia, in the UK, in the US. We also went to Kenya, where a beautiful Mama Rising coach has been working for a few years in the slums of the outskirts of Nairobi with mothers in need. And the final step in that documentary is we're traveling to a remote island off the coast of Darwin in the Northern Territory in Arnhem Land to incredibly sit with some Indigenous elders up there and learn about birthing on country and trying to see if they can give us some of their divine ancient knowledge of how we need to do this differently and do this better. The film should be out sometime next year, and my big goal with this film is that we would like matrescence to be included in prenatal education and antenatal education around Australia and hopefully the world. And my big goal is to get the word matrescence into what we call in New South Wales the Blue Book. So just to start planting this seed for mothers to be really, really early that says, yeah, I know. Oh, very high stat. I thought you said a very high goal, Jessica. And I'm like, I know, we got big goals.
Oh, I think that's an very exciting goal because I mean, when you talk about mainstream, that if you get it in the blue book, that's it. It's, yeah,
Yes. So we really
incredible.
want,
I love that as a goal because it's so tangible too. You're
yeah,
so
that's,
brilliant, Amy. It's just so
we want a
practical. What a
tangible
great
goal.
goal. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
I'm going to stand on the steps of Parliament House one day in the
Hmm.
future, hopefully, surrounded by all of these incredible women who are doing this work as well. Because we just at least want this word as well known as adolescence. We want women to know that you change too, and you need to start thinking about this before you even become a mother. Because the more we know that this is what we're going to be experiencing ourselves, hopefully, the more we can support that crisis and crash and identity questioning on the other side. Yeah,
So exciting. I cannot wait to see the documentary.
thank
Absolutely
you.
brilliant. And
Sorry,
your next project is always something so exciting. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your time today, Amy. We're out of time, so we will wrap up. But yeah, it's always such a pleasure to chat with you and so inspiring. And yeah, thank you for being here with us today.
thank you, beautiful. And if anyone had a question that we didn't get to, please just reach out to me on Instagram. I'm happy to support all of you and share whatever I can.
Yeah, and all the links to contact Amy, her website and her Instagram will be directly below the recording of all the videos. So yeah,
Beautiful.
thanks, Amy.
Thanks,
And
Katie.
thank you to everyone. Thank you to all of our incredible presenters today. This has been such a great day. Often when I'm hosting something like this, I have a little bit of nervousness and I sometimes feel like I don't fully engage with the content because I'm so kind of busy holding space and making sure all the logistics work. But something about today, I was just able to actually really dive into deep listening and really connecting with the teachings. And actually, I'm not going to lie, my overall feeling in the last couple of years has been quite despondent about where we're at in the world of birth. I feel that we are going backwards rather than forwards, and I feel so sad for the thousands and thousands of women that are experiencing birth trauma and really, really struggling through pre and postnatal time in their lives. However, today has felt very optimistic. I really have felt an uplifting energy, and I am so encouraged by the brilliant questions from the women who are showing up to these spaces. And I'm encouraged by women who are thinking outside of the system and thinking outside of mainstream narratives and asking the questions about what's possible. So I feel a spark of excitement and a spark of possibility that perhaps I didn't feel before. And I really hope that all of you feel the same way, because that's certainly been my intention in creating this space. And I also feel that this is just the beginning of more and more conversation and that we have sown many seeds today. So I want to encourage you all to stay in touch. And I also want to strongly encourage you to be in touch with our presenters. Like the faculty of presenters this year has really been extraordinary. I asked some people to be here that I thought would say no, and they said yes. So I'm, really excited by not just the live presentations that we've had today, but also some of those pre-recorded sessions are really, really magical. So please do take the time to watch the recordings, to listen, to follow everyone on Instagram, to ask your questions, to connect up with the offerings from our presenters where they feel like they would serve you, because I know that for many of you, they would be of deep service. And I want to thank all of our presenters, and I want to thank all of you for being here with me, both those of you who were live and those of you watching the recordings. Go well, keep in touch. Thank you, everyone. Namaste. Thank you.